Hello everyone and welcome to another Honkai Star Rail lore video. Today, I'll be talking about Welt Yang, my favorite character so far in this game. Unlike the other characters we've met in Star Rail, he actually comes from the universe of Honkai Impact's 3rd. So, I decided to make this video to tell you more about his past. Also, if you like this video, consider subscribing. It helps me out a lot and I'd really appreciate it. Anyways, let's move right on and get into the video. Welt originally came from Honkai Impact's version of Earth, where he was known by his original name, Joachim Nokian Vertinen. During this time, a blue-haired boy named Welt Joyce would find himself in Berlin, unaware of the extent of the power he holds. You see, Joyce had a Herrscher core in his possession, which made him the Herrscher of Reason of the current era. In the world of Honkai, Herrschers are powerful entities who have one main purpose: to destroy humanity. However, due to interference from a character named Alicia, the Herrscher of Origin of the previous era, Herrschers have a much greater chance of retaining their humanity. Anyways, Joyce would eventually be found by the authorities and taken to a mysterious organization known as the Schicksal. Here, he would meet many characters who are important to the story, including Lieserl Albert Einstein, Friedrich Nikola Tesla, and Elias Nokian Vertinen, Joachim's dad. Einstein would be the one who gave Welt Joyce his name, with Welt being German for world and Joyce after an author. While working at Schicksal, Joyce would also meet Joachim. Joyce would quickly become the young boy's hero, and was someone he looked up to greatly. Joachim also seemed to get along well with Tesla. Eventually though, Joyce, Einstein, Tesla, and Elias would start coming across some of Schicksal's darkest secrets. While the main goal of Schicksal was to fight against the Honkai, it seemed like the Overseer, Otto Apocalypse, had a few more goals. During their investigations, they discovered a secret weapon called the Star of Eden. This weapon was built with the 9th Herrscher's core from the previous era, and was also an item known as a Divine Key. After discovering it, it would become the signature weapon of the Herrscher of Reason. However, this would get Otto's attention, and he would take over the body of a Schicksal Valkyrie, before swiftly killing Elias. After that, he would use another Divine Key, the Abyss Flower, to kill Joyce, Einstein, and Tesla. However, another scientist named Erwin Rihanna Schrödinger would fight back against Otto, then use the Abyss Flower to heal Joyce, Einstein, and Tesla, successfully preventing their deaths. The effects of the Abyss Flower would also allow Einstein and Tesla to remain alive for nearly a century, seemingly without aging at all. As for Joyce, he used all of his strength to stop Otto from blowing up New York City. As he lay dying, Joachim found him and tried to save him. However, Joyce knew it was his time, so he passed on his Herrscher core and the name Welt to Joachim. He lost both his father and his hero in one day, but Joachim still decided that he wanted to live up to the name Welt. Soon after those events, the American branch of Schicksal would leave the organization and form Anti-Entropy. They would also accept refugees from many different branches of Schicksal as well. Later on, Welt Yang would take on his duties in the group, and would become the sovereign or leader of Anti-Entropy. However, the path he chose was not an easy one. The Herrscher core he now possessed held over 300,000 souls, including Welt Joyce's. It would make it nearly impossible for him to sleep, and he would have to work hard to not drown in the sea of minds within the core. His body would be affected as well, with it slowly being torn apart by the immense power. Either way, he accepted his destiny with the core. Much later though, in the year 2000, the Herrscher of Void Siren would awaken. Unable to sit still during all this, Welt would form an uneasy alliance with Schicksal. This also revealed to Otto that Welt Joyce was dead, with Welt Yang as his successor and the new Herrscher of Reason. Anyways, there would be multiple fights against Siren, including one where Welt almost successfully defeated her with a black hole. However, he would be stopped by a disguised Otto, who almost killed him. With the help of Siegfried though, Welt was able to escape from Otto and recover from the tough fight. After this, Siren would give an ultimatum to humanity, saying that Welt must face her alone, which he eventually accepts. Both Einstein and Tesla are torn by this news, with Tesla being especially upset. Before Welt leaves, the two have a waltz together, something that Joachim said he wanted to do with her when he had grown up. However, the last conversation between the two would end up being a fight, as Welt's plan was to detonate his Herrscher core, taking Siren down with him. Tesla would help him put this plan together though, even though she was furious at him. Eventually, Welt would travel to the moon where Siren was, along with Siegfried. While Siegfried went off to do some secret operations in the background, Welt would distract Siren and her dragon in a duel. Welt would attempt to go through with his plan during the duel, but Siren would extract his core and absorb it. And so, that is the end of Welt Yang, with his body fading away as Siren takes his power. Nah, just kidding. After many more battles with Siren, Welt would reveal his backup plan. You see, the Herrscher of Reason has the ability to create objects, and the Herrscher core of Reason holds over 300,000 souls, now including Welt Yang's. Despite the risks, Welt hid away in the core and waited for the perfect moment to build himself a new body. This new body would look more like his appearance in Star Rail, now including the glasses that resemble his father's, and the scarf similar to the one worn by Welt Joyce. Anyways, his reappearance turned the tide of the battle, and after a long series of fights, Schicksal and Anti-Entropy would finally defeat Siren. A few years later, in 2005, Welt would disguise himself by working as a college professor in America. One of his students would be a girl named Murata Himiko, who wanted to travel to New Mexico to look into a supposed alien sighting. Upon hearing of this, Welt joins her, as he wants to hide the fact that the alien sightings are actually anti-entropy activity. At the same time as this, Murata Ryusuke, Himiko's dad, had discovered an alien species known as the Sugars. They have been traveling from world to world in an attempt to escape the Sky People, who are an advanced species of alien willing to destroy other worlds to take their Honkai energy. Anyways, when Welt first encountered Ryusuke, he immediately felt like something was off, and even moved to protect Himiko before realizing who it was. Later on, Ryusuke would reveal himself to Welt, including his plans to increase humanity's strength. However, his plans were wild and mad, and Welt knew he had to stop him. The two eventually battle, with Ryusuke gaining the upper hand by bringing Welt into the world of the Sugars, where he has imprisoned the members of the species and taken their power. Ryusuke would use the powers of a divine key which he called the Alien Key in the fight, severing Welt's limbs into multiple pieces. Welt is able to survive this attack, much to Ryusuke's surprise. As Ryusuke prepares another attack, Welt is able to defend against it this time, using the power of his Herrscher core to see in higher dimensions. After that, Welt would use the Star of Eden to pull Ryusuke into a black hole, killing him. As for Himiko, she would go on to become a Schicksal Valkyrie, all the while believing the lie that her father had been corrupted by the Honkai. Years later, Welt would go into hiding again, but would come back out briefly when Cocolia used a clone of Welt Joyce to take control of Anti-Entropy. Welt is able to defeat the clones made by Cocolia, proving that he is still the strongest Welt. However, he still decides to go back into hiding and live in secrecy. Later on though, while fighting a powerful entity from the Sea of Quanta known as the Serpent, Welt would fall into the Sea of Quanta himself. This would leave Cocolia in full control of Anti-Entropy, which eventually led to Branya Zajic jumping into the Sea of Quanta to recover the Herrscher core that was now there. she would end up meeting a boy named Joachim, and after many trials, Bronya would acquire the Star of Eden from him. She would also become the new Herrscher of Reason, being acknowledged as a worthy successor of the Core of Reason. As for Welt, he once again had stored his consciousness inside the Core, popping out at the right moment to help Bronya. After this, Bronya would also become the new Sovereign of Anti-Entropy, with Welt acting as her mentor. Years later, Welt would adopt one of the clones of Welt Joyce made by Cocolia, who he named Joffrey Joyce Yang, or Joey for short. However, the two would be separated when the Sky People that Ryusuke talked about invaded the city of Saint Fontaine, leaving it to become a ruin filled with giant crystals. Welt and Joey would be reunited with help from the Schicksal Valkyries, and they would work to catalog the monsters of the Sky People. Soon after, the two would meet the Void Archives, who had taken over one of Otto's spare Solium bodies. Now, the Void Archives is an AI made to protect humanity, while also having the powers of a divine key based on the Core of Reason from the previous era. The Void Archives had a plan to protect humanity from the Sky People, which involved him convincing them to attack Saint Fontaine while Welt was there. He needed the powers of the Herrscher of Reason, and since Welt still had some of those powers, he was the perfect choice. Eventually, Welt goes with the Void Archives and says goodbye to Joey. Sometime later, in 2029, Welt and the Void Archives would be aboard a Sky People vessel. They had ended up here after an operation with Schicksal, and had to work together to get back home. While they're talking, Welt finds an image of one of his students in the logs of the ship, causing him to freak out a little. The student he saw was Himiko, whose story I briefly covered earlier. However, this is not the Himiko he knew. If you look closely, you'll see that the image he saw was actually of Himiko from Star Rail. The Void Archives then tells Welt that she is in fact from a parallel universe, one which the Sky People plan to invade. Immediately, Welt wants to go and stop them. The Void Archives does not object to his plan, as the Sky People are a threat to humanity, but he does find it a bit naive. Anyways, the two are eventually picked up by some companions of theirs, using a portal created with sugar tech to leave the ship. Sometime later, Welt would begin his journey across universes, making his way to the world of Star Rail. He would soon meet the Himiko that he saw in the logs of the Sky People ship, and would start traveling with her aboard the Astral Express. Now, before I go, I'd also like to take a quick look at Welt's Star Rail splash art. This art features many different characters from his past. On the bottom left, you can see both Tesla and Einstein, who were a big part of his life growing up. On the right, you can see Welt Joyce, his childhood hero. And in the background, you can see the Void Archives, who was one of Welt's later companions. And that's the story of Welt Yang before Star Rail. His story is so interesting to me, and it has made me love his character even more. I definitely need to play Honkai Impact 3rd soon, but it'll probably be a little bit before that. Also, I do plan to make more Star Rail videos in the future, and I already have a video out about the mysterious eons. I'd love to hear what other bits of Star Rail lore you'd like me to cover in the comments below as well though. Anyways, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Sources and further readings are also in the description if you want to check them out. I hope you all have an amazing day, and I'll see you all in the next video.